everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Save the Punter Betting Show, the programme where we do the research so you don't have to. We're going to preview the big Premier League games for the weekend and advise you of where we think there's value to be had to make your sport betting life a little easier. We actually had 600 views on the show last week, which was great, especially given we don't really have any presence in the industry. We're not affiliated to any bookmakers. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Really, really appreciate it. If you feel that it's a decent podcast, please go and give it a review on iTunes or the podcast app, because we've got it in audio format as well to download. But I don't think there's any danger of us being stopped in the street just yet, Pete, is there?
Nah, nothing so far. It's more of a Bundesliga crowd around here, though. Too many Bayern Munich fans. I think we're bigger in Nigeria.
Yeah, we have had a couple of people from Nigeria and Kenya message saying they enjoyed the show, which was great. But we do have someone with a bit more notoriety in the betting industry with us today, Nigel Seeley. Hello, Nige.
Hello, guys. Thank you very much for having me on. Look forward to welcome you here and having a bit of banter with you boys. So, yeah, I watched last week, all very good. And I'm quite big in Nigeria as well, actually. I don't know why, but massive. Can't go to Lagos without. It's like Beatlemania.
Yeah. So Nige, I think most of the listeners will have seen you on your other podcasts you've done or heard of you. You've been in the betting industry for a while. Do you just want to give a quick intro of yourself to those that haven't?
Yeah, sure. I've been a long time in the game now, probably when you were in nappies, you guys. I mean, 30 odd years now in the betting industry. Started back in 1990, straight after the World Cup in 1990. I got a job at the Racing Post where I was for 7 years. As a young sort of office junior in the sports department. So there was just starting sports betting in 1990 and it was fantastic. And then I worked for Victor Chandler during the World Cup in 1994 as a football odds compiler, and then worked for IG Index, the PR. And then the last couple of years, sort of 6 or 7 years now, I've worked for myself, just primarily doing tipping pieces, writing blogs, doing podcasts, and now set up a website, premiersportsplays.com, and just primarily focus on the American market, really. Parris, I mean, the American market is now going to be the gambling hotspot in the world. And I do a lot of media work out there. And seeing as I've known you for many years now, you're getting me at half the rate that they do. So, which is fantastic. But
well, that's good. I don't have deep pockets.
Well, I've been out of you a few times, so I know that as well. So that's true.
So I met Nige randomly in a pub. So I was in a pub.
Oh, sure. How many people do you reckon have randomly met me? That's the first line anyone ever meets. Yeah. Say, where did you meet Nigel? Well, I was in this pub.
Well, I've only met you once, and it was in a pub as well.
Yeah, I know, but we were doing a quiz that night. We were doing a quiz. Give me some kind of credit.
So it's great to have you on board. Hopefully, Nigel can help us find some value in some of the games we've got coming up to review. Maybe we'll kick off with betting lowlights from the last week. Pete, anything you've got to say on that?
Well, yeah, there's a few from the podcast, wasn't there? I think for me, I thought the unders bet in Watford Norwich was a good bet. I think there was a 5-minute spell where I think Tom's bet of Chelsea and under 4.5 was killed by Benteke's first home goal in about 2 years, and about 2 minutes later, Welbeck scored an overhead kick into the top corner to kill my unders bet. And I think that's when you know it's not your time. And that was probably the low light for me. Not often you get that many losing bets on one of our podcasts.
Yeah, I think we've probably done about 30 podcasts since 2016. Last week was the first time we've done it visually. Before it was just audio. And we've only had a losing podcast 2 or 3 times out of 30, which is pretty good. So hopefully we might have a few more betting highlights this week. And any lowlights or highlights for you from the last week's betting, Nige?
One really big lowlight was the first 5 minutes in the Brentford v Charlton game. I backed Brentford -1.5, and I backed Brentford to win to 0. And it was all over when Charlton scored after 8 minutes, which wasn't very good. It made me an uphill struggle. I think the betting highlight for me, and probably the highlight performance, was Leeds yesterday. I thought Leeds were fantastic yesterday, winning 5-0 against the Stoke side, really struggling. I'm on Leeds quite big for the anti-post for the season, and I think the performance was the highlight. What I've seen, probably the best performance I've seen from a side since returning in all the football competitions. Really, I thought they were that good, and obviously for a personal level, that was good as well. And I think that Leeds now hopefully can go a lot better than where they finished last season. They should have been in the Premier League last year. But yeah, that was my highlight, and the first 8 minutes in the Brentford game was my low light.
Yeah, speaking of early lowlights in games, my unders bet was over in Liverpool by half time. So that was a low light for me. Maybe we got some future betting highlights. The first fixture on Saturday is Norwich West Ham. I keep saying Norwich are all but down, but then every week the dross above them keeps squandering leads. So, mathematically they could stay up, but they're not going to. West Ham, they've got 31 points from 34 games. They've got a 3-point cushion over Bournemouth, who occupy 18th. West Ham got superior goal difference as well, so it's as good as a 4-point cushion. A win here and they're almost safe. The market has them at a shade of odds against. They're favourites, 2.05. Norwich are 3.9 and the draw's 3.75. In terms of the goals, over 2.5's 1.8. I think unders is around evens. Gents, where's the value in this game?
I actually quite like this game, Parris. I'm not as far as the match concerned. I mean, you couldn't back West Ham 2.05 against anybody away from home in the Premier League. Probably one of the most inconsistent sides. Seem to do it against the big teams, raise their performance like we saw against Chelsea, and then terrible against the lower league sides. But Norwich, just they're going to go down. But the manager said we're going to go down in some style. So they're trying to play the same style of play that's got them in this position in the first place. They haven't decided to tighten up in any way. They only have seemed to one way of playing, and it's not good enough for the Premier League. They have to have a plan B. And I think that means goals in this game. I quite like the overs at 1.8. If you look at West Ham, they had 21 shots against Burnley the other night and lost 1-0. And Nick Pope was fantastic. I'm sure we'll probably come on to him and about his performance and Burnley's performance. But I think that West Ham, they do have the attacking flair, and I think Jared Bowen now coming into the side offers a little bit of attack. Antonio's back to some kind of form. Fredericks looks good as well. I think that to be quite an entertaining game. I think Norwich will go at West Ham. Defensive frailties at West Ham. They're very. I can't remember the last time they kept the clean sheet. Defensively, not good, but they're quite a good attacking outfit. And the goal XG was quite high against Burnley, 2.14, which I think shows you how high it was, and they just couldn't convert the chances. So I fancy goals. I'm going to go for a typical end of season game. I can see both teams scoring in quite an entertaining match. So over 2.5 goals would be my first game in what I think looks a very, very difficult Premier League card this weekend.
Yeah, I think West Ham are normally good for a goal. Their games average normally about 3 goals a game. You got Norwich, who I think, Pete, you said on the last podcast, they need to start coming out and attacking a bit more. They need goals. They need something to try and boost confidence, but all but over for them. So Nigel, you're going for overs in Norwich v West Ham. Just having a look now. I think the best price you can get is 1.9 with VBet. I know most people won't have an account with them. They're quite a new bookmaker. You can get round about that price on the exchanges, or you're looking at 1.83 with BetVictor's probably the best price at a traditional big bookmaker there. Moving on to another game from Saturday. We've got Liverpool playing Burnley. Pete, I think there was a bet you liked in this game.
Yeah, I'm going to be looking at the under 3 goals. I've got it at 2.02 on Bet365 and Marathon. I think if you look at Liverpool this season, they conceded in each of their first 8 home games, but since then they kept 7 clean sheets out of 9. They're still going to be playing. You can tell they're talking. They still want these points records. They've got Salah wants his top goal scorer, but still there's probably a tiny bit. They're not quite 100% as you would be if you were chasing for titles and stuff. Burnley are looking strong, certainly after that Man City game. That's really rebounded after that. They had a few heavy defeats early in the season, but since then they've been playing well. They keep it tight. I think Nigel just mentioned about Nick Pope. He's very good at claiming crosses, probably his biggest strength. And we know Liverpool like to put in crosses. So I think Burnley are a sort of team well suited to sort of match that strength of Liverpool's. Only both teams have scored only 5 of Burnley's last 16 games. And I have them at around 40% to get a goal here. So to get under 3 odds against, if there's 3 goals, we get a void. I'm very happy to take that bet.
Okay, so on the Asian goals, you're playing under 3. If there's exactly 3 goals, you get your money back. Obviously, it's a loser if there's 4 or more. What about on the 1x2 market then? As you say, Pete, Liverpool, there's doubts about how motivated they are. However, 92 points on the board. They only need 8 more to get 100 points. Salah really wants the golden boot. They're 1.22. Is that the right price to back them outright for the win?
Feels a touch short to me. Even though I'm sure they are playing full, but still, there's nothing you can do mentally. There is a difference between playing for actual titles and playing for like points records, which I'm sure they want. I think they need 3 wins. Is that to get the record points? But I expect them to win, but it just feels a too short a price to me.
Yeah, if anyone fancies a long shot on Burnley, they're 12-1 at Sky Bet. I think the draw's 6.5. You know, Burnley are only 3 points off Wolves in 5th position. They had another 1-0 win last time out. They've won 6 away from home, drawn 4, lost 7. So they don't have a terrible away record. Do you ever lean on this one, Nigel, or not one you're really looking into?
Well, I mean, you say about Liverpool being 122. What price would they be if they were going for the title? Probably 110. Probably maybe even short. If they needed this win, and Man City they were 4 points clear of Manchester City, they'd probably be about, that's the difference in the price. The only trouble with it is that what sort of starting 11 Klopp puts out, and he's been quite strong with the starting 11s. Obviously, he hasn't really rested too many key players. There's some younger players who need games to get on to get a Premier League medal, and I think they'll probably come on as a sub. The only thing I would go, I agree with the argument made there, but I would probably look for maybe a draw half-time, Liverpool full-time, if you were looking for some kind of way to get with Burnley. I can see Liverpool finally breaking them down late on. We know exactly what the way the game's going to go. Burnley are going to put the defence up strong. Me's going to be, it's been fantastic. Tarkowski's fantastic. Pope. It's all well and good defending like that against West Ham, but when you've got that front three of Liverpool, they'll break you down eventually. And I'd probably go for a draw half-time, Liverpool full-time as a small lean if I was going to do anything. But couldn't disagree with any of the points made already.
Yeah, I think you can get 10-3 on draw Liverpool at half-time, full-time. So pretty decent.
Well, that's what happened against Villa, wasn't it? The same thing happened against Villa. There was a 0-0, scored 2 late goals. Yeah, I mean, if you think that that intensity's not there, it might not be there in the first 30 minutes or so. But where these strong clubs teams are getting strong is in the latter half, latter stages, with the 5 subs. And Liverpool can make 5 subs and bring 5 quality players on, and Burnley don't bring on the same quality. That's where the extra difference is being sold. So draw half-time, Liverpool full-time for me, small league.
Yeah, well, especially Burnley. Burnley are really struggling with the squad, haven't they? They've got no backup at all, so they're not going to be able to bring many people on.
Yeah, I think. What do you think about Dwight McNeil then? He's looked very good recently. I like him for getting a shot on target. I like him for just maybe getting 2 shots in the game as well. If you can get odds against on both of those, it might be something to play. Pete, I don't know if you've had a look at Burnley's shot ratios, whether that's a good bet.
I haven't looked at the player ratios. No, I think our resident Burnley fan, Chip, really big fan of McNeil's, but doesn't think he's necessarily the best in the scoring, hitting shots on target. But I'd have to have a look at that again.
So we're hoping for maybe a touch of a boring first half, low-scoring game. So we've got under 3 Asian goals there. Before we move on to Sunday's games, anyone else got anything else from Saturday?
I've got nothing on Saturday. I've got something on Friday though, Parris. If you're interested in that on Friday night, I've got a game tonight I quite fancy in the Championship.
Yeah.
I quite fancy Fulham tonight to beat Cardiff. Slightly put off last night because of the Leeds performance and the Leeds win. If Leeds had got beaten last night, Fulham were right back in an automatic promotion chase. But I think they've got to. They're not playing well. Fulham, they're not playing at all well, but they're grinding out the results. I mean, the result last Saturday against Birmingham, battered them for 90 minutes and scored in the 97th minute to win. Come from behind against QPR, but they're not playing well. But Cardiff they held the lead twice against an injury-ravaged Blackburn in midweek and failed to hold the lead and lost 3-2. And I think with Mitrovic back, Tom Kearney's out tonight, which is a big blow because he's probably the best playmaker in the Championship. But I do think now Mitrovic back, going for the top goal scorer in the Championship, and he's going to be like absolutely a new sign or a fresh player because he hasn't played for 3 games. He's all about energy. He's all about physical prowess. And other teams have played sort of 3 games a week, and then he comes straight back fresh as a daisy. And I think that swings it in Fulham's favour. And I like him to score as well, which 11-10 I thought I saw. Maybe even bigger with some places, 6-5 I thought yesterday with Coral, I think it was. But if you can get that, 23 goals this season already, penalty taker against a Cardiff side on the back of conceding 3, and a fresh Mitrovic, I think Fulham win, and Mitrovic can get on the score sheet tonight.
Yeah, I like that bet actually. You can get 5-4 with Sky Bet and Bet365 at the moment. He's banged in 23 goals this season. If you look at his XG, I think his XG is a little bit lower than that. So it's not like he's being fortuitous. He's scoring about the amount of chances he should do. Has always scored well in the Championship. Like you say, he's had a bit more of a rest. Pete, any thoughts on this one?
No, Championship. I haven't really looked at the Championship recently, so I wouldn't have anything to add.
What about the outright market then? So you think Fulham can get a win at evens?
I think they're a big price. I think they're a big price to win. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it'll be a high scoring game. I think they'll probably win it 1 or 2-0. Cardiff have been a lot better at home than away from home. I know they won last time out, but if you look at the stats for the season, and also they beat Leeds at home, which is probably sort of spying that. They need the points. They're a bag average side. They need the points for the playoffs, but they're punched above their weight slightly. There's got Swansea behind them, Preston behind them coming good as well. And so, I think if you can get even money or odds against, I would back for them tonight. But I do think, if Kearney played as well, the two of them would be dynamite, and I'd have a lot stronger play. But I do think the loss of Kearney is a factor, but bringing in Mitrovic outweighs that in Fulham's favour. So, yeah, a small bet tonight for me on Fulham at evens or bigger.
Yeah, I really like the Mitrovic bet. To get odds against, I think, is incredible value.
Like he was going off last season against teams like Preston at home and teams like Blackburn, Swansea, teams like that. He was going off around about 8-11, 5-6 kind of price, and now he's come back and he hasn't played, and these players, I don't care what you say, having 4 months off and then throwing in the amount of games they play. People are saying, oh, they're Premier League footballers or they're Championship footballers, they should be used to it. They're not used to playing these kind of fixtures, and they will be absolutely exhausted. I think the Bundesliga injury rate went up by 200% when they come back. There'll be players here who are really feeling it. And for him to have 3 games off and come back and focus now on getting his club into a playoff position, or maybe even hopefully an automatic position, however far-fetched that might seem, but also on becoming the top goal scorer in the Championship. That's 2 factors that really, really like it for me. And odds against, I think he's a play.
Yeah, I think maybe people have focused too much on the fact he hasn't scored in the 2 he has played since lockdown, which was against Brentford and Leeds, the 2 probably best teams in the Championship. I don't think he scored in the 2 before football stopped either, against Preston and Bristol City. But you can't just look at that. You've got to look at the fact he scored 23 in 36, which is much better than a goal every other game.
Exactly. He's carrying my money tonight, so that's good.
So back to the Premier League, probably the marquee fixture of the week's the North London derby. The bookmakers are finding the teams hard to split. Both are around the 2.6, 2.7 mark. The draw's 3.4. I mean, in fairness, only 1 point separates him in the league. There's probably not as much home advantage. There's not going to be a partisan crowd here. Both teams have a goal difference of +8. Both teams have managers who took over mid-season. So what do you reckon, gents? Who are you getting on side in this game?
I'll be getting Arsenal on side. I think draw no bet is probably the safer play. If you can get that odds against, which I think is good. Obviously, if people listen to the last 2 podcasts, I've been against Arsenal. And I think most of the season I have been. I've backed against them 9 times in 2020. This is the first time I'm going to be backing with them. And I did a little more real deep dig into the research, and there's probably a bit more Arsenal improvement than I was maybe giving them credit for on the last couple of podcasts. And with Spurs, there's no improvement there. And I watched the first half against Everton. It was the dullest 45 minutes I can maybe ever remember watching. I watched the second half against Bournemouth. Again, terrible. There's just no teamwork. There's nothing that I can see that what Spurs are trying to do. there's just nothing there. Whereas Arsenal, you can at least see there's something. There's like a drill. They're a team. They sort of know what they want to be doing. And I think Arsenal should really be favourites in this game. So odds against for the draw no bet. I think keeping the draw no bet in there rather than the outright win, just because Tottenham are decent at the back. I think that's probably the safer play. And yeah, I really like that price.
Nige, any thoughts?
Well, I think it's a tricky one to call. I wouldn't back either of these sides with my money with holding them any confidence at all. Pete's points there about Tottenham are dreadful, but these are probably the two most underachieving sides in the Premier League this season, and coming into a real difficult stage of the season where really you don't really want to be having too many big players on anything at this stage of the season because it's so random the results. I probably wouldn't have a bet, but I looked at a couple of stats and a couple of props on the market, and it was 5-2 the match to be awarded a penalty, which on first glance you would say, "Oh, it's 5-2." There's no sense in that. But there's a few things that make me want to bet it. The last 3 matches between the two sides, there's been 3 penalties awarded, so every match has had a penalty awarded. In the last 10 fixtures in the Premier League, these are Premier League fixtures. In the last 10 fixtures, 5 penalties have been awarded in this fixture. The goal expectation is up higher than a normal game. It's around about 2.9, 2.8 on the spreads, midpoint. The bookings is around about 50, 52, so it's a lot higher than average. So we're looking for high expectation goals. We're looking for high expectation bookings, which obviously is what you want to need if you look hoping for a penalty. And then you throw into the mix Michael Oliver is the referee. Now, Michael Oliver's obviously gone off many Tottenham fans' Christmas card list of not awarding the penalty last night for Harry Kane, which was a clear penalty. It was also the man who disallowed the goal against Sheffield United. So he may feel, and I know people will turn around and say that was lunacy, but I'm sure in the back of his mind he knows he makes a mistake. And if there's any sort of decision that's a 50-50 or we can rectify a decision, maybe possibly he could do that by awarding a penalty. So, and he's quite prone to award a penalty or two. And obviously since the restart in all leagues in Europe, penalties have gone up. When you look at the Spanish league, there's been loads of them. The same with the German league, same with the Italian league. And I think that's due to the fact that there's no fans being able to have a decision swaying on the referee. So I think there is a lot of, you're not 5-2. Someone said to me, I want to bet 5-2 a penalty in a football match. I say, go on, crack on, away you go. But in this game, I think for the points I've made there, it may be a little bit, just a very, very throwaway pizza money, have a little bet on trying to get some money back. The match itself, really, just two sides desperate for the season to end and start next year. And as an England supporter, I'm absolutely delighted that the European Championship weren't this year, because if Harry Kane led our line, we're in serious trouble. And I think next season we might have Greenwood, Sancho, Rashford, which is a much more exciting and frightening prospect for any teams that we'll be having in the European Championship. So, the game itself, I think I'm painting the fence.
Yeah, I like a penalty to be awarded. I think Louise and Mustafi, mistakes waiting to happen, can see them giving away plenty of fouls. Arsenal never look great at the back. Harry Kane's a master at winning penalties from set pieces or getting his body in front of a defender and then going down. So I could see a penalty. And then you look at the Arsenal players, Saka, Aubameyang, Lacazette, they're tricky players with speed that could get brought down. I think Michael Oliver's only awarded 4 penalties so far this season, but again, that not really that relevant.
He should have held about 8 over the VAR decisions that he didn't. Yeah. That's the trouble. The ones he didn't award. But I think to have him in that game so quickly after the furore what's just happened is in his mind. When you play Sunday League football, Parris, you play a decent standard of football. It doesn't matter what. If you make a decision or you're a referee, you think to yourself, "Oh shit, I've made a decision. I've got to get out of that one." And I think, especially a couple of 50-50 decisions could go Tottenham's way after what was a glaring omission by him. It was bad.
Yeah, of course. The humanistic point of view comes into this. I mean, bookmakers price up everything on stats and data, but you've got to look at the angles where they don't price things, which is maybe individual matchups. Maybe it's how someone's psychology is. They won't be thinking, "Oh, he should have gave a penalty in the last game, so it's more likely that he will in this game." But it does play a factor.
But I think the fact the games come on straight after it is a factor. I think if it was 6 weeks.
You've muted yourself by accident there, Nige.
But I think just because it's so quickly, that's the difference.
Yeah. And I think, Pete, going back to what you were saying about the draw, I think the draw being in play, Arsenal have drawn almost half their games. I think Tottenham have drawn about a third of their games. There's been plenty of draws between these teams. They're very evenly matched, not just on goal difference, on expected goal difference as well. I think Tottenham are maybe -1 across the season and Arsenal about +4. So that supports Arsenal being slightly the stronger team as well. So one other game I wanted to have a look at was United v Southampton. I'm actually going to go for a bit of a long shot on this one. I'm going to go for Southampton to beat United. You can get 11-1 on the exchanges. You can probably get 10-1 with books. I think Boyle Sports, Bet Victor and William Hill all offered 10-1 last time I looked. Don't get me wrong, United are the most likely winners of the game, but they're heavily odds on at 1-3. I think they're slightly too short. The odds are suggesting they win this 7 or 8 times out of 10. I'm not so sure. Yep, I've been singing their praises recently. They look really balanced with Fernandes linking midfield and attack. He loves a goal, loves an assist as well. Pogba's back playing and doing really well. Matic looks resurgent. The best 2 players this season have probably been Fred and McTominay. So if you look at that central midfield, 3 out of those 5 or 6 I just mentioned, all playing really well. Greenwood, who Nigel has already mentioned, Rashford, Martial up front, they're looking very dangerous. But at the back, I think they're a bit shaky. De Gea's been poor for a while. Maguire's made mistakes. Never looked like a defender that will do well in this league. Wan-Bissaka's looked all right. Sure, I'm not so keen on. But if we look at Southampton as well, they got a decent away record this season. Only 3 teams have picked up more points on the road. And they can get results against the top 6 as well. I'll read out their results against the top 6. They lost to Liverpool 2-1, lost to Chelsea 4-1, drew with Wolves 1-1, drew with United 1-1, lost 9-0 to Leicester, lost 2-1 to City. But then that's their first kind of 5 games. You look at since Christmas, they've beat Chelsea 2-0, they've beat Leicester 2-1, they went down narrowly to Wolves 3-2, they got pummeled by Liverpool 4-0, and they've beaten Man City 1-0. So they can get results against the top 6, the top 5, and I like them at the price. The other thing I like is both teams to score. I've already highlighted United's deficiencies in defence, but I'll just very quickly give 4 reasons why I think Southampton are good for a goal. 1, they've scored in 28 out of 34 this season. They average over a goal a game. 2, recent form. They've scored, I think, it was 7 in 4 since lockdown. Obviously, that's 8 in 5 now, if you include last night's game. Their average goals per game is actually higher away from home than it is at home. 3 games against the top 6. They've scored in, I think, 9 out of... they've scored 12 in those 11 games. And in 9 of them, they've scored a goal. So only twice they haven't scored in those 11 against the top 6. And then the 4th reason, they've had 440 shots this season, which is the 5th most in the league. So yeah, I'm on both teams to score, and I'm on Southampton for the win.
Yeah, I like Southampton in this game as well. I'm going to take plus 1.5, which you can get about 1.97. I agree with what you're saying about Man U, how they improved, and I think they've got a nice balance to the team. But at some point, they're just going to stop scoring every single shot that they take. And I think that's why we're getting the results are better than the performances. They're playing well, but it seems like yesterday against Villa, got a penalty out of nowhere. I mean, never a penalty. Then they get a shot, Greenwood from 20 yards, goal. And again, they've got good players, so they're going to do that more than other teams. But I think it's still a bit unsustainable at the moment. And like you're saying, Southampton, Road Warriors, 5th. I've got them 5th place in the away table this season. And they can come out with great performances when they need them. So I like Southampton here as well, plus 1.5.
Nigel, what about you?
Yeah, I wouldn't put you off, guys. I mean, the case you made was a valid one. I just think that with Manchester United now at the moment, the confidence, they're young. I mean, that's, you know, you can have all the stats in the world, but they're getting confident, they're young. And the other thing I like about them is there's 4 or 5 players in this team now are contributing the goals. They all get double figures, and that's a sign of a good side that you can always rely on 5 or 6 people to get you out of trouble if one goal scorer is not getting you the goals. I could see Southampton scoring. Obviously, Danny Ings, you saw, going for the top goal scorer, and you saw last week Bournemouth grabbing 2, and probably should have scored at least 1 or 2 others. I mean, they hit the post. They had a penalty, which was awarded straight on the back of that. They had another good chance as well for a goal as well. And the big problem at Manchester United is conceding goals. And as Pete says, they've got goals in abundance, but they will stop. That stat will change. I'm probably more inclined to go with Pete's plus 1.5 rather than your sort of big hooray and go for the 11-1 shot. But you've got to be in it to win it. And the last few games in the Premier League season, as we see every year, shocks do happen at big prices. They're likely to happen in the last 2 or 3 games than they would be around Christmas time. So, yeah, they could win. I think Liverpool could get turned over at a big price coming soon as well. So it is the time for funny results. So good luck, guys. And but as the Dragon's Den says, I'm out.
So if you do fancy making a case for Southampton to win, you can get, I think, 10-1 with Unibet. Both teams to score was 5-4. It's come into 11-10 now with Betway. And then Pete's got roughly even money on plus 1.5 there for Southampton. Any other games you like the look of, fellas? I think, Pete, you fancy something in the Bournemouth game? Yeah,
I like Leicester here against Bournemouth. I'm going to take Leicester minus 0.75 at 1.94, Bet365. I've got Bournemouth rated 19th over the full season and actually bottom at the moment if you overemphasize a bit more of the recent play. They've really struggled. Leicester have got 5th. And if you look at the game Bournemouth played against Tottenham on Thursday, Tottenham are 1.75 to beat Bournemouth. And now Leicester are, I think, about 1.72 to beat Bournemouth. But I have Leicester as a much better team than Spurs. And the rest situations from those games are basically reversed. In that game against Tottenham, Bournemouth had 2 days extra rest than Tottenham. Whereas now they're going to play Leicester. Leicester have got 2 days extra rest than Bournemouth. I think that could be vital. Bournemouth, another defensive injury. Adam Smith looked like a bad one. He took probably a head injury. He's not going to be back. And I think now, if they can not get in that win against Tottenham, they are now doomed. They've got all these tough games coming up. I can't see how they're going to get out of it. Leicester, not a good performance against Arsenal. I think maybe the tactics probably weren't what they could have been. And Maddison and Chilwell probably won't be playing. I think they rushed him back before Maddison. They might be a bit more sensible this time. If those two are playing again, like last week, I'll be really in on this, talking multiple points. But even without them, Bournemouth will have to go for it. If it's draw late, if they're only 1-0 down, they'll keep going. And I think Leicester will be able to exploit that. So I really like Leicester, minus 0.75.
Yeah, I don't mind that as a bet. I don't think Bournemouth are a great team. I think they're better than the league position suggests. I've got them 15th in my rankings, which is a couple places more than they are. I think Leicester are a good team. They've faltered a bit recently, but if you look at the amount of goals they've scored this season, Jamie Vardy looks fully fit. Like you say, without Maddison there creating the chances, and he is a very good player, I'd be less inclined to go more than a point on it. But you've got other players that can create. Harvey Barnes is very good running with the ball, put crosses in. Yuri Tillemans is a great player. I think Pereira's a miss as well down the right. He was a very good attacking fullback that helped create space for other players. But yeah, I like that. Leicester minus 0.75. Nigel, any thoughts?
Yeah, you would think that Leicester would get the win. I'm hoping Vardy scores. I want him at 20-1 to be the top Premier League goal scorer. So that's one bit I'm getting a bit worried about. A couple of chasing few behind him. So hopefully that's my big cheer. And I think Bournemouth are doomed. I mean, regardless if they get anything in this game, I think they run. But I think the prices look about right for me. I wouldn't be having any. But I couldn't disagree with the points, but I just wouldn't play at the prices, to be fair to you.
And then just from the motivation angle, Brendan Rodgers and Leicester will be desperate to get in the Champions League next year. They're 4th at the moment on 59 points. United are only a point behind. They're only a point behind Chelsea, Leicester. They could overtake them with some good results. Bournemouth absolutely need a result here. They're 3 points off West Ham and Watford. Yeah, both teams absolutely be going for all 3 points in this one. Any other leans in any other games for you, gents?
That's it for me, Parris. That's all the stuff I've got this weekend. Very quiet one for me, but yeah, a couple of strong plays, and I may be following a few of the suggestions that you boys have put up to have a bit of interest as well. So yeah, just for me, those ones I've given you.
Pete?
Yeah, I mean, I've got another one. If I've got Palace on the draw no bet at 2.46. I can't see Villa ever scoring goals. It looks, I don't know how they're just not scoring. They've scored 2 goals since we restarted, both of them from set pieces, and they're just really lacking up front. That's why they're going to go down. They got Wesley in, didn't start great, got injured, and they haven't been able to replace him. And I think Palace are going to be happy to go there, sit back, hit them on the counter. We saw Man U hitting them on the counter yesterday. And I think for 2.46 on the draw no bet, I know the motivation, Villa, obviously they have to get it. Palace, not really much to play for, but I think they'll still turn up. And to get a price that big, I think it's worth a bet.
Yeah. So listeners, if you want a list of the bets, you can go to www.savethepunter.com/podcast bets. That's savethepunter.com/podcast bets. And there's a list of all the bets there. We've gone for goals in Norwich v West Ham. Slight lean for Arsenal onside in the North London derby. Nigel's also suggested a penalty there. We've got Southampton, either the straight win or plus 1.5, as well as both teams to score. Leicester minus 3/4. Crystal Palace, draw no bet. And then tonight in the Championship, Fulham to win at evens and Mitrovic to score at odds against. Gents, thanks very much for joining me today. Really appreciate your insight. Hopefully we can get the listeners or the viewers some money back and do a bit better than we did on the podcast last week. And this will be on iTunes to download as audio only if you don't want to watch a full show. And please do give us a review if you've enjoyed our insight. Pete, Nige, thanks very much.
Cheers for having me. Have a good weekend, guys.
Take care.